What's going on, everybody? As always, thank you for tuning in. On this episode, I am a guest on the Eventist365 podcast. We had a discussion about trade shows, events, brand activation, and creating success when you are the one planning and strategizing for those at your company. We discussed memorable experiences, what makes them memorable. We dove into technology, and we had a good conversation about inclusivity at events and how you, as the person planning and creating events, can ensure that they are inclusive of all. I hope you enjoy this episode and catch you next time. Thank you.
All right. So Matt, as the CEO of Rockway Exhibits and Events, you've had a front row seat to the evolution of corporate events, right? So can you share a memorable moment or a turning point in your career that truly stands out for you and why it had such a significant impact?
I would say one of the impactful moments for me was like when we first started the business, right? Was selling, like one of my first larger accounts, which at the time was just like a 20 by 20 trade show booth. It was a rental. And then going through the whole process and then going down to the show floor to see the delivery and meet the client. It was just eye-opening to me because I had been to some trade shows, but you walk around and you look and you poke. But like when you've created something and you've worked with somebody and, they're kind of on the line to a degree and your work means something to them. It was just eye-opening about the process. And when you sell something that is like tangible like that actually comes to life. I really enjoyed that. It was impactful on me because it made an emphasis for me on the deliverables that we were selling as a company.
Gotcha. I think that's actually really cool. I think when I kind of first started doing just like the trade show management when I was in corporate, being able to actually visit the site, so to speak, but like where the booth is actually going to get set up was a completely different experience. Like the level of excitement was just like versus when you just like when you're designing and just sending it out and someone else sets it up and someone else gets to see it. They send you pictures and you're like, oh, that's pretty, but nothing beats the exhilarating feeling of actually being there, like to actually go up.
Yeah, you realize it's not that I didn't realize it, but you don't know till you know, like how important and how stressful this is for companies spending 40, 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, $1 million, whatever it is. I mean, it's like just being show site, being there with clients, you see what happens when like a TV doesn't work and they're scrambling to get the USB stick to just the anxiety that they're under. I mean, I have some crazy stories about clients, show floor. We had a person that we like brought off site to go buy a coffee maker for the booth. And like, it's just like all this crazy stuff that, it's eye opening once you first get down there. But I think the coolest thing for me is delivering a tangible product. I really, really like, you bring it to life. I enjoy that.
So I know like we've spoken before, like I was on your pod. So we've had lots of conversations and you have a passion for like concepting brand activations that like engage and like drive results. So can you tell me like about one of your favorite brand activation projects and like some kind of like creative process behind it? Like what made it so successful?
So I have a few. You want a few? One, the best one? What do you want?
I'm here for all of it. Let's start with the best.
I'm here for all of it. All right. So I'll give you my favorite one. How about that? My favorite one was in 2019. We had the company open for like 7-8 years at the time. And we were very much, I felt like a transactional trade show event company. We just sold people trade show booths without much thought in it. And I was just like, man, there's got to be more to this, yada, yada, yada. So I kind of jumped back in the saddle at the time. I was still selling a little bit to some of my older clients and people I had worked with when we started the business. And I just like flipped the script on with a company, completely changed the conversation. I was like, hey, why are you at this show? Let's talk about your client, your audience, your messaging, your value proposition, the problem you solve for them. What results are you looking for at this show? Like all the stuff that I had felt that mattered that I thought just got so skipped in so many conversations at trade shows. I was like, let's talk about this first. Then we'll get to designing a trade show booth and we'll build an experience that helps you sell, helps you build brand, helps you differentiate yourself on the show floor. And it was with a company called Cannigan that we had worked with for years. I wish I could show you a picture of the trade show booth we built for them in 17 and 18, and then the booth we built for them in 19. I'm sorry, it was like 19 into 20, but it was gorgeous. It was like this, they're a dog food primarily, a little bit of cat food, but a very like earthy, organic brand. They have this whole ingredient shtick, which is, why their food is better. I mean, we built this, but it had a barn roof. It had like wood tones. It had a whole thing you went through. We had live produce on the show floor. That was one of my favorites, the way that booth came to life, but it was really more an internal thing, because it's kind of like I had this vision of like what the process should look like to build a real meaningful brand activation at a trade show or an event. And it was just awesome. It was great to see. Another one I would say is really cool is we built a booth for 3M for Post-it. Post-it was launching extreme Post-it notes. So I don't know if you've ever seen
like how extreme can Post-its really be?
These
Apparently
things
very
are
extreme. Okay.
These things are let me tell you how extreme these things are. So these things are so extreme. The concept is like you use them at like construction sites primarily. So it's like a sticky note. It's a little bit bigger than a normal one, and it can endure like weather. You can write on them. You can put notes. So we end up building and creating this whole booth that looked like scaffolding. So the exterior of the booth was like scaffolding, and then it looked like bottom line, the booth looked like a construction site.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it had different areas in it where it was like we actually laid brick and tile, and these like, we would stick the notes to the brick, stick it to wood, concrete, all these things to show the applications of it. That was a super cool exhibit. They actually even ended up, that went so well, they did another show because apparently these extreme... No, the idea was that these extreme notes were also going to be used in restaurants, right? Because like a kitchen, I guess they need sticky notes. I don't know. And they got steam and food and stuff. So we built out a commercial kitchen and put them in there, and it was pretty cool. That was a cool one as well.
Nice. I love that. I think, I'm a fan of 3M, right? They've been around for like forever and a day, and they somehow managed to continue to revolutionize some of what you could think is like the most basic things, but I think there's some technological advancement in there. And because of that, I want to kind of dive into like the technology at events. Like what are some emerging technologies or like innovations that you have found to be like game changers for corporate events? And like, how have they really transformed the way you approach your actual booth executions?
I don't really know if there's been anything that's like totally game changing with the way that we approach. I would say coming up now.
Okay.
So the LED wall, the LED, video wall technology, the tiles that you see at events all over the place, I think that's going to massively impact things now moving forward, because it was so like 2013, 14, 15, 16, it was out of reach cost wise in terms of how they were manufacturing these LED tiles and walls. Now they're I wouldn't say they are inexpensive, but they're more affordable, more cost effective. You can use them, and they do so much for like messaging, changing messaging, content, attraction, creating attention, creating motion in your graphics, and doing so much for events. Like, I think that is a constant. You see it at a lot of events, but the cost of it, the application of it, and what it's capable of at the end of the day is so much. And then other technologies, I don't know. Look, the touchscreen thing's been great. Like, holograms are cool, but they're just not there yet. Like, they're usable, but it's more like a magic show. People are like, oh, look, I have this hologram floating, and someone's like, oh, wow. But people will start using those. I think there's this technologies where it's like a hologram for a person, and then you can record them giving speeches. So it's like that. I think you're going to see some impact. But why do I want to go to an in-person event and listen to a hologram talk? So I have my questions on that.
Yeah.
But it's like, what is it, Star Wars? It's just weird. I'm like,
I don't know. It might be a thing where maybe the guy is, I don't know, maybe he's in Taiwan and the event is being held simultaneously at 3 different events around the world. And maybe you're going to the event for the networking and not necessarily to be able to shake the speaker's hand, but like you still want to be able to get his content and want to be able to like simulate. I don't know. I'm really going down a rabbit hole here, and I'm doing a lot of like hypothetical, like,
I get it.
Because I'm like, I could see where it would be interesting, but I can also see where it's like, can can you just jump on Zoom so I can save the airfare?
There's going to be positives to it. You know, like I said, I don't know what the hologram thing is going to do just yet. You know what the other thing is? So I was just thinking about this is there's this technology with video walls where it can now look 3-dimensional, and it's been out. There's been these ads you see on like Facebook and Instagram where it's on like a street corner in Manhattan.
Or like
it looks
Times Square.
Yes. Those are super cool. And I think it kind of goes back to my original point, which like the LED video walls and tiles and everything. It's not that they're like earth shattering. They've been around, but they're getting lighter. They're getting more cost effective. The imagery is getting better.
It's like
and
a
then
flat
the
screen
capability.
TV. Yeah.
The capabilities are getting.
Yeah. Yeah. They were like really expensive, and they just like continue to evolve and get better. Yeah.
People are going to be using those to like draw attention, to create a wow effect, which is what you want at events.
Yeah. You want to be able to like stand out when people are walking by, right?
100%. Yeah. You want to, you want to build that experience. You want people to be like, oh, what's that? Oh, damn, that's crazy. There's a shark coming out of the wall, and we're at an aquarium event. I don't know, so.
Can you share a story about an event that you attended, like just like as a guest, like you're walking the floor, where you experienced like something like really, really unique or like unexpected that made you feel like, woof, that was good. Like now I'll always remember that.
I thought, so in 2020, was it last year? Maybe 2022, or is it late 21? I don't know. I went to the event marketer summit, right? So a lot of like experiential summit. I brought my team there. Mm-hmm. And during one of the main lunches, the lunch was in a big room, probably 40, 50 tables plus in there. And they had a stage, and the presenting sponsor of the lunch was Cameo. You know the app Cameo?
No, tell me about it.
So it's an app. So like, let's say, for your birthday this year, I was like, man, I got to do something.
Oh, never mind. Yes, I do know. But keep going in case other people don't.
Yeah. So you can, so I would be like, okay, I got to do something for Yanique. So what I would do is I'd be like, hey, I would find whatever your celebrity that you love, or like a person that's famous, and I could go through this app to get them to send you a birthday message, and then they'll, so it's cool. So anyway, the CEO, the founder, was sponsoring the lunch. He was up on stage. He was running everybody through a presentation while you had lunch. It was it was good, entertaining. And then he had all these celebrities who were coming up on the screen and over the PA system. There was a video about Cameo. And then Montel Jordan came on and was talking about Cameo and how much he loves, Cameo. And his song, This Is How We Do It, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He started singing This Is How We Do It. And you're like, oh, that's cool. He's on video. He's doing a song, because he would do that in a Cameo. And then right when it got to like the break of the song, I was like, this is cool. Right to the break of the song, boom, he came out on stage and was singing This Is How We Do It. So he went right from the video to being in stage. He performed for like 3 minutes, the whole song, like it was a concert. Yeah. So it was like very like surprising, engaging. And it's something that I can tell you, like, I will always remember Cameo because of that at that event. Whereas I don't remember any of the other presenting sponsors. There's actually some I'd like to forget. Yeah. Because they tried to pitch us the whole time. So.
Whereas you're like, these guys are engaging, and I just want to talk to them for like 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Do something wild. Do something fun. If I'm there, and don't pitch me all the time on your features and benefits,
that's fair.
Make my lunch better. That's what Cameo did. My lunch was fun.
You're like, yep, they have earned some of my time and goodwill. I love that. Yeah. So we've talked before, and you introduced me to Shell Lawson, and she focuses on like diversity and inclusion. We're trying to get her on the podcast. We gotta figure it out.
She travels a lot. She speaks a ton. She's
yeah. We're working on it though. We're working on it. But you mentioned that you were inspired by her and her like talk on diversity and inclusion. Can you share like an insight or a lesson from her talk that really struck a chord with you, and like how it has influenced your approach to leadership and even activations? Okay,
so I don't want to say I wasn't inspired by her, but I don't think inspired is the right word. I think she got me she got my brain turning, right? I like people that can get my brain turning. I like people that can, because I think it's real easy to see her talking about diversity, inclusion, and you're at a corporate event and you're like, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, here comes another talk about diversity, inclusion. And like, I know all this. I'm going to hire the best person for the job type deal, all that, which I think is very easy for people to fall into. They lead themselves into that, right? I spoke to her afterwards. I only caught half of her talk because I had a call, but I got half her talk. And then that night I went over to her to just introduce myself and say hello and tell her that I enjoyed her talk. And we just ended up in this conversation. And she said something to me that really got me thinking. And she said, like, how did she, I don't want to, I'll screw up what she said. She said it better than I'm going to say it, but she essentially said, like, one of the things that people don't realize is that people gravitate to people like them. And when she said that to me, I was like, because I'm a sales and marketing person. And I know in sales, like, people buy from people they like.
Yeah.
People buy from people that are like them, that talk like them, that have personality like them, that engage with them. And I think you just don't realize, or I don't realize, or didn't at the time. I was like, shit, like that really hit with me. Cause I'm like, okay, it's very easy to fall into, when it comes to hiring specifically, because I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And running events, is hiring people or utilizing staff, people, whoever, for events that look like you, that talk like you, that are like you. You naturally gravitate to somebody. So her and I had this whole conversation and basically rounded up to the point of saying, I was like, well, how do you get around that? Because it's a natural inclination for anybody, any race, doesn't matter. And she basically said, it's like, well, just find people that you gravitate to that are like you, but you have to remove the fact of skin color, remove the fact of gender, remove the fact of, you know what I mean? All these different things. I was like, that's really
other commonalities.
Yeah. So that just really got me turning and thinking, you know, because I know as a person who hires, I mean, I could say it out loud, but you'd have to come to my company to see how we're staffed, who's here, what kind of diversity we have, right? You know, so I'm comfortable with it because I know that we have a diverse, inclusive staff, right? But I could say, oh, I hire the best person for the job. That's an easy thing to say. But when you really start thinking about it, it puts that on you to be like, okay, am I giving this person the same shake I'm giving this other person?
Yeah.
So I think it's just a good reminder. It was a good, like, the way she phrased it to me. And it just, you know, I don't know, for some reason got me to think differently about it, for sure.
I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for being transparent, because sometimes people get like really weird around these kinds of conversations. I'm like, bro, if we don't talk about it, like, how do we learn from each other? Like, how are we supposed to, if we never talk about it? Stop being weird.
Well, it kind of had me thinking.
Yeah.
When I was in the talk, I'm like going through my staff in my head. And I was like, man, are we like an all white male company or something? Like, you know what I mean? I was just thinking, I'm going through all these different people. And then, you know, because I don't feel like I hire that way, but I'm like, okay, do I have a bias to my just identifying with people that are just like me that I'm thinking about? Am I really being, you know? So it was good. It was a good process to go through. I think luckily for us here, we've always had a pretty diverse workforce in what we do. I don't really know why that is, but hopefully it's a little bit of hiring, the types of jobs we have, the levels of jobs. We have all different kinds of jobs in our company, you know? There's just a lot of diversity with what we do in general. So I think that might help and add to it. I don't know.
I mean, as you're sitting here and talking about hiring and building and choosing people who like you're comfortable with, but even though they don't necessarily like look like you or even talk like you, whatever that is, can you talk to us about how you like help your team members kind of like, or maybe even a client, I don't know, like push past their comfort zone? Because I mean, it sometimes you could be really just comfortable by what you're seeing, right? That's the first thing you gravitate to. But pushing past your comfort zone to like kind of like achieve something extraordinary. Like, what's the situation, and like what approach do you use to kind of like help a client or a team member push past their comfort zone to just achieve something awesome sauce?
It's a good question. I would say that like every person is different when you lead from a leadership standpoint, I'd say. Every person that works with you, for you, however you want to phrase it, right? Everybody's different. everybody has different tendencies. Everybody has different hurdles. Everybody has different levels or layers of, you have to get to know to understand people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, and then I think once you understand them, I think you can help them get to where they want to go, not where you want them to go.
Uh-huh.
Right. So it's like, hey, where do you want to be? Are you happy doing what you're doing? Are you comfortable just at kind of like this pace? And, or do you want more? Do you want to be better? Are you open to feedback? Are you, that's kind of getting people on your train to say yes. And then I think it's just a matter of aligning their goals with maybe your goals, or even just, making it more about them and showing them kind of like what is possible for them. Everybody has hurdles. And I think it's also normalizing it for people. You're like, you do this, you do this, you do this. And I'm like, well, hey, I do this, I do this, I do this. So I always try to relate things back to maybe problems that I've had in the past and how I've overcome them. Because I think that people get worried about that. People can be defensive. People can be, worried it may shine them in a bad light. And that's just people. That's just human behavior. So I think if you're trying to help people overcome that, you have to make it feel normal that they're not perfect, that they're not, because it is completely normal. And then B, it's about saying, hey, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? And then kind of trying to earn some trust, because when you earn trust with people, then you can say, this is what I think, or this is where I would little bits maybe think you could be better, or maybe where I'd like to see you get better. And I think that people respond positively in that process.
I think even like how you're describing that right now is really just about being like super human centric, right? And being mindful about the people that are part of the process. And so as a leader in the event industry, how has the power to influence and shape the profession kind of increased the way you looked at not necessarily just diversifying your workforce, but also diversifying how you have chosen to create activations for event attendees?
I guess that's another good question. I would say I don't know the answer to that, but what I would tell you though is that I had another conversation around this, because again, I don't know all. So it's like I'm having these different conversations with people around diversity, right? Inclusion and different things. And I talked with, I always mess up his last name. He's going to be so pissed if he listens to it, but it's Cooper Cheatham, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Okay.
And he's like a brand manager. He does experiential activation, stuff like that. And we were talking about this, and he brought up a really great point about events, corporate events, and speaking panels. And he's like, when you go to an event, you want a wide perspective, wide variety, wide thought, wide thinking. You want different perspectives. Interesting. So it's like, what better way of getting that if you're going to have 7 speakers, that speaking panel should be diverse, right? It should be diverse and inclusive. It should have that element to it. Why would you want to have a speaking panel with 5, 6 of the same similar people? It's like when you're in high school and, you see the, 6 guys walking down the hall, they all look identical, right? It's high school. You gravitate to what, things like that. But it's like, it's true. They're all like, okay, you have the same haircut, same shoes, same outfits. So he had put on events, and he had always said that talk about looking for a diverse staffing, diverse speaking, diverse, and that the concept would be that particularly on the speaking side of it, that's how you're going to get the widest perspective and different thought process and makes for better, more engaging content, I guess you'd say. So that's kind of how I answer it. On my side of how we've provided it, I mean, with what we do, I don't know with what we do, which is really in like the strategy, design, fabrication, and then like logistical support of brands at trade shows and events, We're not really in like the event planning where we're building out the corporate event for people. We're more like doing sprinkling our magic in the area where they need it most. So I don't know if I can answer it intelligently essentially about, you know, how it's affected us or how it could be better there.
Can I play devil's advocate real quick?
Yeah, fire away.
Someone says to you, hey, we're doing this activation.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that we want to include. Lighting, sound, brochures, sticky notes, I don't know, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you come back and you're like, hey, that's all really great. But what if we were to turn your auditory experience into an optional auditory experience for the people who want that, people that who don't? Or what if we didn't have the lighting set up in that way because it might affect someone who doesn't really do well with like flashing lights and so on? Maybe we could try to get attention from by using this instead.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where, in my head, your ability to kind of advise people how to move through these varying nuances and think about an audience unlike themselves would make a difference. Or maybe like how they're setting up how the booth is set up. Like, is it set up so that someone who's in a wheelchair can come and like pick up a pamphlet and still get all the best high level?
Yeah, I know. Okay. I get what you're saying. You know, it's an interesting one on that note that I've had this conversation before, at least on my live show. I had somebody ask about networking at trade shows and events. We were talking about it for like a half hour, like best ways to network and practices and things. And someone's like, hey, I don't drink.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I think you and I talked about this, actually.
Was it? Yeah. Okay. Maybe it was. Yeah. I don't know. Because I feel like it's come up numerous times, you know, where it's like, hey, a lot of people do their best work at events and trade shows after hours. I drink. So I'm able to go, you know, do that. Right. It's just part of my life I'm okay with. There are some that are not. So it's like, how do they get, I know you're saying better access there. And then in terms of like our activations, I mean, there's some elements that we have to think about. Like I'll give you a perfect example. And I probably should have thought of this when you asked, but I think you clarified it well. Yeah. We just built out a permanent branded environment at the Amalie Arena. It's in Tampa, you know, where the Tampa Bay Lightning play. So our client Publix is one of their main sponsors. And there is a like outdoor space right downtown there that it was like this kind of empty dead space. And they created a partnership, or they had a partnership, and they basically said, hey, we're interested in building, activating, creating a space back there called the Publix Plaza. So they came to us once they agreed to it and said, hey, we need you to design this. We need you to build it and make it come to life. We're like, oh, okay. So the first part was like ideating it, right? And, you know, that's very simple in our process. It's like, why, who, what's it for, right? What's the end, you know, what does success look like? What do you know, all those things. But to that point, like, I mean, we had to make sure from, you know, compliance standpoint, right? Is this thing, can somebody in a wheelchair get up on this part of it, right? Like there's all different things. So I mean, like, I don't even, you know, now I'm thinking about it. Like, do we have Braille on some of the signs, right? Do we, you know, so those things like that. I mean, for sure with what we do. I mean, it's definitely an area. Some of it's regulated, like you have to, but I think there's probably some outside the box things that people could be thinking about. And
just pushing the envelope to be a bit more inclusive, even though that just like, it's just not top of mind. They may even be like, for me, I feel like there are instances where people are really like losing out on business because they're not being inclusive enough to reach that audience who could also resonate with their product, but they just don't have the ability to actually get the right information.
Well, I would say, I mean, we pushed hard for a dog park. We're dog people. So we're trying to be inclusive to the dogs. We're trying to get them in there, get a little dog place out for them. But the idea got shot down for a lot of reasons.
Is that at the same park, the same place for the public?
Yeah, it was just, there was like a grass area, and we noticed there's like a neighborhood, all these people walking their dogs. You know, so trying to think outside the box there with different things and people. You tried. Lifestyles. Yeah, we tried.
Okay, I love this. Before I let you go, I got one more question. Tell me one event you think every event marketing professional or planner should attend at least once in their life.
Can I give you a few?
Sure.
Or one? Or you need one?
I mean, I like one because, you know, it keeps us honest. But if you have a couple, I'm here for it.
All right. From a trade show perspective, still probably CES. From an event perspective and just trade show, event, corporate conference, like everything, activations. I mean, South by Southwest is leading the way in like what these new style events look like. Essence Fest is another one.
Okay.
Dreamforce, you know, like these are just new style. Yeah, these are just these new style of events that are like cultural, corporate, activation, sponsorships, experiential. Like they just put everything together. They're just wiping the old model of like what a B2B or like even B2C, but what a corporate event looks like. And they're making it more consumer experience driven. And I think that's the direction that just corporate events need to go. They need, you know, they need to take a page out of South by Southwest, Dreamforce, Essence Fest, like, you know, those spaces.
Nice. Okay. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. I think you shared a lot of really insightful information, especially when we're talking about the actual activation side of the event life. Sometimes we kind of forget about those actual parts of it, like the people who are actually helping us make it happen after we go, hey, date, time, place, go. So thank you so much for your time.
You got it. I appreciate you having me on.
Always a pleasure.